Lara finished school, received her certificate, and for the first time flew out of her native nest, and so far away, to another city where she had never been. She enrolled in the University of Food Technologies, choosing the faculty of bakery and confectionery production. It wasn't the main campus in the capital, but a branch, yet it was still far away and unfamiliar. Stepping over the threshold of the educational institution for the first time, Lara was trembling with nerves. As her mother would say, "Don't tremble," she muttered to herself, trying to bolster her spirits, clenching her fists. Everything was new to the girl. This city that seemed like a huge metropolis compared to her village, the buzzing dormitory crammed full of noisy young people, and the spacious, bright academic buildings where everything was radically different from her familiar rural school. "What are you stuck at the door for? Coming in or not?" she heard a perky, ringing voice behind her. Turning around, Lara saw a freckled girl, cute with dimples on her cheeks. Her hairstyle was dotted with colorful rubber bands. It looked frivolous but charming at the same time. "First time in this city?" the redhead inquired. "Don't be scared, girlie. We'll get through it. I'm Lada." "And I'm Lara. Nice to meet you." They quickly hit it off and got to know each other better, chatting a bit and sharing where they were from. It turned out they would be studying in the same group. "Great. Stick with me. With me, you won't get lost." In the dormitory, they were lucky enough to be roomed together. From then on, the girls became best friends. On the evening of September 1st, the freshmen decided to throw a party in the dormitory to celebrate the joyful occasion. Everyone still had money and food brought from home, courtesy of their parents, so the table in the common room was literally groaning under the weight of homemade treats, not from the supermarket, all natural, as Lada declared, GMO-free. Music blared. It was incredibly noisy and fun. Upperclassmen dropped by to introduce themselves. Some came, others left. A typical lively party, like Brownie in motion. At the height of the festivities, two guys walked through the open door of the common room, and the girls immediately liked them. Handsome, they quickly found common ground and got acquainted. One of them, Gleb, clearly took a shine on Lara, while the other, Sergey, liked Lada. The guys were in their third year. Lada let down her sunny hair, removing the bright rubber bands, and danced to the music like a fiery little jumper with her curls flying. The girls had their preferences. The lively Lada mostly danced energetic numbers, while Lara preferred slow songs. Gleb and Sergey stayed until the very end of the party and even pitched in with the cleanup, helping the girls tidy up the remnants of the fun and haul the plastic dishes to the trash. From then on, the four of them started hanging out together. Lara fell in love with Gleb. It was like a bolt of lightning. The girl couldn't even imagine anyone else by her side. But Lada was frivolous and flighty. She dated Sergey for half a year, then suddenly switched to the handsome Jen from the fourth year who had a foreign car. Sergey was head over heels in love with her and suffered terribly. But why would she want a rural guy from the dorm with nothing to his name? She was the same way herself. Lada wanted to party, dance until she dropped in clubs, race through the night city at breakneck speeds, not count every kopeck when ordering desserts and drinks. Lara and Gleb strolled along illuminated streets holding hands, sat in the park by the lake watching the swans. They often brought bread there and fed it into the water. Sometimes they stopped at an inexpensive student cafe where they shared different desserts to try half of each. But it didn't matter where they were. The important thing was being together. Whether in the cafe or the park, they could hold hands, gaze into each other's eyes without looking away, and share their most cherished thoughts and dreams. Lara was on cloud 9 with happiness. And what else won Gleb over to Lara? He respected her virginity. He was such an old-fashioned knight, no intimacy before marriage. The love-struck girl was ready for anything for her beloved, without a second thought. But Gleb firmly stated, "I've always dreamed of a real wedding night. I'm old-fashioned, as you've noticed. I want a car with rings, doves will release into the blue sky, endless cries of bitter, rings with engravings and eternal love or something like that, so that you're only mine and I'm yours for life." Lara was immensely grateful to her beloved for such romance. One day, Lada invited Lara to her village for the weekend. Her school friend Tanya was getting married there and wanted her childhood pal as a bridesmaid. After all, they'd been together since birth, born on the same day, shared a peck of salt, and all that. Jen offered to drive the girls there in his car. If Lara had known what awaited her, she never would have agreed to go. They were welcomed warmly and immediately seated at the table. Tanya turned out to look like Lada's sister, same red hair and giggly nature. Then Lada ran off to her parents' place. They lived next door. They left Lara to stay overnight at Tanya's house. It was spacious, plenty of room for everyone. The next morning, Lara didn't know what to do with herself. Lada and Tanya had dashed off early on errands. Wedding preparations were in full swing. Tomorrow was the ceremony, and there was still a ton to do. Hem the dress so she wouldn't step on it with her heels, and run to the neighboring village for shoes. The bride wanted ones with pearl beads, and a friend had a brand new pair still unworn. Lada volunteered to go with Jen. Lara could help with setting the table. She was used to it. She rolled up her sleeves, tied on an apron, and got to work, stuffing cabbage rolls and baking pies with various fillings. In the evening, after working hard, the girls dressed up and headed to the club. "Tanya, you're getting married tomorrow. What dances? You're a bride now, almost a wife. Forget all that nonsense," Lada jokingly scolded her friend. "Why, is a bride not a person?" Tanya laughed. "Tonight I'm dancing till I drop, girls. Let's party, saying goodbye to freedom." The out-of-town beauty naturally stirred up the local guys. They invited her to plenty of slow dances, and Lara was asked over and over. Before dancing, the girls had also knocked back some cherry liqueur, so Lara spun in the dance like in a fantastic whirl, not remembering faces or names. Many guys didn't even introduce themselves when asking her to dance, and she didn't need it anyway. She had her beloved Gleb. Why bother getting to know anyone else? After dancing their fill, they started heading back, but Lada had vanished somewhere. Oh, let's go without her. Lada probably went off with her student to wander or something. Anyway, do what you want, but I'm heading home. I'm dead on my feet, afraid I'll oversleep my own wedding tomorrow. You'll make it. It's 5 steps away. There's our fence. I'll find my way, Lara waved. She really didn't find her friend, and neither of them answered their phones. One local guy offered to walk Lara home, the one she'd danced with a couple of times. She didn't remember his name, or maybe he hadn't said it. At the gate, he took her by the hand, but she pulled away, wished him good night, and dashed into the yard without looking back. The wedding was lively. They ransomed the bride with noisy haggling, then even ransomed the bridesmaid. The groom had to pay up. Noise, uproar, laughter. They decorated a whole wedding procession of 15 cars, with rings and a doll on the hood, of course. Lara danced and feasted until she was exhausted. Stars scattered densely across the sky. The indefatigable Lada was still dancing, like she had a spring in her or something. "Let's go for a walk," she heard an unfamiliar voice beside her. She even startled in surprise. It was that guy she danced with at the club yesterday and a couple of times today, the one who'd walked her to the gate last night. "I've walked enough already, I think. I'm tired," Lara tried to decline. "Come on, to the river to admire the stars. We're not going far, just a couple of steps." Lara shrugged and went with him. Really, what was the harm? But conversation didn't flow. It turned out there was nothing to talk about with this escort. They reached the water, stood by the little bridge. It was time to head back since talk wasn't happening. But then a bottle of wine appeared in the guy's hands, probably pulled from his pocket. "Want to drink?" "What, straight from the bottle?" Lara asked for some reason, though instead of discussing it, she should have refused outright. "Why from the bottle?" the escort replied eagerly. "I even have glasses, not plastic cups, proper noble ones, just like in the best houses of London." For some reason, Lara agreed, taking the glass in her hand. They toasted the health of the newlyweds. "You know, I think I'll go," Lara murmured.
It seemed to her that the stars were dancing in circles and everything was swimming before her eyes. "I feel unwell. It'll be fine now, don't worry." She heard his voice as if through a layer of water.
Lara came to when someone was calling her. It was Lada. She couldn't figure out why everything was rocking until she realized she was lying in a boat with waters lapping under the hull. "Lara, where are you?" Lada shouted worriedly from very close by. "I'm here," Lara responded weakly. "Thank God, you scared me. Where did you disappear to?" "It seems that guy dishonored me." Lara burst into tears. "What guy? Where? You were alone." "No, he was here. We drank wine, and yesterday we danced, and today too, several times," Lara explained confusedly. Her legs were shaking with a nasty fine tremor. "I don't understand a thing. So yesterday or today? What's his name?" Lada couldn't grasp it. "That's the problem. I don't know. I don't know." Lara sobbed loudly. "Oh God, what a disaster. Are you sure?" "Sit tight. I'll get Tanya. Maybe she knows him." A worried Tanya ran to the boat and couldn't wrap her head around the fact that Lara had danced with some guy for 2 whole evenings without even knowing his name, and then drank wine with him. "How could you think to drink wine with a stranger?" Lada marveled. "What were you thinking with?" "What am I supposed to do now? This is such a disgrace. At my wedding, they abused my guest, and we don't even know who." "What to do? Call the local cop or the district station?" Tanya clutched her head. The 3 girls wailed in unison. The stranger, after doing his dirty deed, vanished into the darkness as if he'd never existed. Where to search for him, and by what name? Lara didn't know his name and couldn't even describe his appearance properly. Jen found the sobbing friends and got alarmed too. "How do you mean raped? Are you sure, or did you just decide that yourself?" Jen pressed. Lara shrugged, wiping her tears. "It seems he slipped me something, and probably, judging by everything, let's skip the police if you can't make sense of anything yourself. No name, no looks, nothing coherent at all, whether it happened or not. Go to a doctor later to confirm for sure, and don't make a fuss for nothing now. And don't tell your Gleb anything. He doesn't need to know at all." "And we won't breathe a word," Lada nodded vigorously. "Not a word. The main thing is you don't spill it, yourself." Back at the university, Lara met up with Gleb and couldn't hold back. She told him the whole truth about the village trip, or rather, such a muddled version of the truth. He listened in silence, then stood up and left without a word. Lara sat on the bench stunned, hoping he'd come back and talk to her, but he didn't. A week later, when they crossed paths by chance in the hallway, Lara couldn't take it. She caught up to him and called out, "Gleb, wait, we need to talk. You're avoiding me." The guy pulled her aside and, avoiding her eyes, said, "Larissa, you realize it's all over between us now. Don't follow me anymore and no more meetings." "Why? I'm the same as before." The girl tried to grab his sleeve. "The same as before?" He smirked bitterly. No, you didn't live up to my expectations. You betrayed me." Poor Lara cried so many nights, face buried in her pillow. It was so hurtful that Gleb had left her. There had been love, dreams, plans, and suddenly it all ended abruptly. The worst part was she didn't understand her fault. After all, that's how circumstances had unfolded. Lara tried to talk to him a few more times, but he always walked away, even grimacing in disgust. There was no other choice. She had to learn to live without Gleb and without love. As if in revenge, the young man started dating Seta, a girl from his course, and wherever Lara went, to the cafeteria, lectures, the library, she'd run into the pair. Gleb looked happy, laughing, showing everyone what she'd lost. Her heart bled, and 1,000 hammers pounded in her temples. This nightmare went on until Gleb finally graduated and got a job in his field. He was invited to a factory in a nearby city. On the eve of his departure, Gleb threw a farewell party for the guys to celebrate his diploma and say goodbye to friends. Oddly, he invited Lara too, but warned her that his girlfriend Sveta would be sitting next to him. Lara decided not to rip her heart out by going. It became clear to her that Gleb still loved her, and everything he said and did was just out of spite. But even after leaving, the guy had no intention of leaving Lara in peace. He kept sending her messages on social media, words, photos of his fancy work conditions, the cool equipment. Sveta had gotten a job there too, by the way, and Gleb kept sending Lara his pictures. After 6 months, unable to endure the torment, Larissa resolved to reply. A classmate had started courting her, but what kind of courting? They'd gone to the movies a couple of times. So Larissa lied to Gleb that she was getting married and asked him to stop writing. To her surprise, his messages ceased. Gleb really left her alone, though calling it peace was a stretch. Not a day passed without her remembering how deeply she'd loved Gleb and mourning that cursed day she'd agreed to go to the wedding. Damn it. Time passed, new events gradually pushed out the memories of her lost first love, and she thought of Gleb less often. After finishing her studies, Lara got a job, new team, new duties, new acquaintances. Her paths with Lada diverged. Her friend had long broken up with Jen and married someone else. Soon, a colleague named Pavel started courting Lara. He'd walk her to the bus stop after work, invite her to the staff cafeteria for lunch. They cooked excellently there. Not every restaurant could boast such cuisine and menu. Lara started buying food to take home, like the others, to avoid standing at the stove on weekends. The building also had a fantastic gym, pool, and great showers. You could work out after hours. The management took care of its employees. Pavel pursued Lara. She neither reciprocated fully nor cut him off completely. She couldn't make up her mind. Finally, he dropped to one knee in front of everyone, holding out a red velvet box, and proposed. The co-workers were touched and applauded long. Such a beautiful couple, wishing them love and harmony. And she gave in. Though Larissa didn't love Pavel, but she agreed to marry him. Time was ticking. Then their first child was born. How Lara wanted to name her son Gleb, but her father was Maxim, and Pavel's father was Maxim too. The decision was clear: Maximka. Both grandpas were over the moon. But apparently her husband subconsciously sensed his wife's coolness, because he started hitting the bottle more often. Lara, wrapped up in her own turmoil, thoughts of the past and daily chores, didn't even notice when things in their family fell apart to the point where she realized, yes, I'm married to a full-blown alcoholic. She didn't know what to do. Pasha had become a hardcore drunk. He lost his managerial role, demoted to technician, then fired altogether for truancy. The most galling part, he refused to listen, wouldn't admit they had a problem. Don't make stuff up, Larka. I'm fine. I just need a shake-up, find a good job, and it'll all be okay like before. Don't count me out yet. But month after month, nothing got better. Maximka moved to 4th grade and started swimming at the sports center. Pavel kept drinking, and Lara had no choice but to stare at her husband's reeking, unshaven face and carry the whole family on her back alone. Then suddenly the ice cracked. She finally got through to her husband and convinced him to see a narcologist. "I'll go with you for support," Lara declared firmly. "No, I'm not a kid. I'll handle it myself." Pavel completed a treatment course for alcoholism and got coded for good measure. Light appeared at the end of their family's tunnel. One day, in the supermarket, Lara was rushing to finish shopping in time for her son's return from practice. She still bought a lot from their cafeteria: cutlets, chops, baked turkey, but needed other groceries too. Suddenly, Lara bumped into a tall man who dropped her bag of oranges in surprise. He picked it up, apologized, and suddenly exclaimed, "Lara, is that you?" She turned and froze. There stood Gleb. "Larissa, how long has it been since we saw each other?" he asked, greeting her.
Lara gazed at him in admiration. He'd become even more handsome, tall, strong, well-groomed. A long time, Gleb, very long, Lara sighed. I'm not letting you go. We have to sit down. There's a cafe on the second floor. You have to tell me how you're doing. They went to the cafe, ordered coffee, and talked at length about the past, recalling only the good moments from their youth and avoiding the topic of their painful breakup.
Gleb shared that he and his family had moved to this city. "Oh, gosh, I have to run. My son must be back from practice." Lara suddenly flapped her hands. "Come on, I'll drive you." Gleb stood up. "It's just a few steps to my house." "But the bags are heavy, not for delicate women's hands." "No arguments, Lara. I'll see you home." He drove her to the entrance, carried the bags to the elevator, and kissed her on the cheek. "Glad to see you after all these years, and glad we live in the same city. Means we'll meet again." And they did start meeting regularly. Only now did Lara understand what an ideal partner was. She realized Gleb was her one and only, and there would be no other man in her life. But neither was free. Gleb was married to Svetlana, and they were raising a daughter. They didn't dare break up families and hurt the kids, nor could they part from each other. The lovers agreed to wait until the children grew up to fulfill their family duties fully. Plus, Pavel had found a good job and was bringing home decent money, trying to spend time with his son. They went to swimming together. The boy trained, and Dad cheered him on. How could she abandon him during his turnaround? Lara couldn't do that. Then Gleb left for a long business trip, a promotion in the long run, but first lots of work opening a branch. He could visit only a couple of times every few months, and he wanted to see Lara then. Soon after, she realized she was pregnant. She didn't know how to tell her beloved. One day, she told Gleb about the long-ago incident, and it had fatal consequences that lasted for years. What to do if it was Gleb's child? How would he accept his baby growing up in another family? And if it was her husband's, how would Gleb react? He might leave Lara, seeing how tied she was to this marriage. He wouldn't wait years, and she'd lose him again. On top of that, Pavel's sobriety didn't last. He relapsed and went on a bender. Lara faced a tough choice: leave her husband and divorce. Lara still opted for an intrauterine paternity test. The clinic assured her it was safe for the embryo. With Gleb away, she could check whose child it was using Pavel's sample. The results shocked her. Pavel wasn't the father. No match. No error possible. The father was definitely Gleb. The woman was lost. What next? On one hand, she dreamed wholeheartedly of bearing her beloved's child. On the other, she'd made so many mistakes in life that adding another was daunting. What if Gleb didn't divorce? He said he'd wait until the child grew up. Being left with 2 kids scared Lara. Could she raise them alone? Gleb wasn't responding online. Why the silence? Would he show up, or had he ditched her? She couldn't delay. Decide or decide. Such a dilemma. Lara scheduled an abortion, though her entire being rebelled against it. She couldn't even tell her beloved about her condition to decide together, and time was against her. 4 months later, Gleb finally returned. He'd been in an accident, in ICU, had surgery, but it turned out okay overall. God, how I wanted to see you, hold you. Rescuers cut me out of the cab. The car was totaled, phone smashed to bits. They notified family, but I couldn't reach anyone else. Later, when I came to, I couldn't ask my wife to call you. He even laughed. Lara wept, and he comforted her, not understanding the tears. It's all good now, no need to cry. It worked out, everything will be fine. Lara mustered the courage to confess. No, it won't. I'm crying for another reason. Gleb, I was pregnant, but I had to get rid of the child. Gleb blanched. You mean from my child? Are you sure it was mine? Unable to say it aloud, she just nodded. This is unthinkable. You're betraying me again, Gleb said hoarsely. My child, the one I would have wanted, and you killed him. The big, strong Gleb suddenly seemed small and pitiful, as if he'd shrunk. I didn't know what to do, Lara sobbed. But I do know. You'll always betray me, so I don't want this anymore. Goodbye. Gleb dressed and left the room silently, slamming the door. Lara cried long in the quiet, realizing she'd made a monstrous mistake she couldn't fix. How could I have known? What should I have done? How? But no one could answer. Lara rode the minibus a long time, unable to collect her thoughts. Then she got off at her stop and sighed. On one hand, her life had crumbled. On the other, oddly, nothing had. It had just returned to normal. Home awaited her son, her family. She wiped her tears dry and headed to the supermarket. She still needed to buy Maxim his favorite pastries and Pavel his Bavarian sausages. By the way, she still had that narcologist's number. A good doctor. He'd help Pavel for sure.